Okay, we're going to send it over to Kyle here for the first part of this. And Kyle, I think if you do the up and down arrows, let's see if this, now try it should work there. So here's Kyle for Long Island CW. The mic's there, so you might want to, the speaker's here. Okay, thank you. Get this figured out here. Yeah, I want to make sure that I can.
All right, very good. Good morning, everybody. Let's see here. I'm here to talk about Long Island CW Club. But before I do that, let me talk a little bit about me and my journey to learn Morse code. So I've had an interest in ham radio for as long as I can remember. My great uncle, so my grandmother's brother, was a ham in West Bend, Iowa. Oh, by the way, I'm a zero. I'm from Zero Land. I'm from Nebraska originally. So this was my great uncle Russell, WA0MIZ in West Bend, Iowa. So there's never been a time in my life I didn't know what ham radio was. When I was in junior high, I joined Civil Air Patrol. Familiar with what Civil Air Patrol is, right? So in Civil Air Patrol, they use 2-meter radios, VHF, and basically we would go out and do search and rescue exercises, which are just really big hidden transmitter hunts. Like, hey, there's a hidden transmitter somewhere in northeast Nebraska. Go find it. And so the Civil Air Patrol group got invited to go to the ham club in Fremont, Nebraska. So I went, was really excited, learned that the first license was the novice class at the time, right? This is the 80s. And well, it was Morse code only. Well, sure enough, I got the book. I got those little blue cassettes, right? Those were before the days of CDs. And I listened to those every night. Boy, did I listen to those. I really did. I listened to them all the time and I had it down. Except it turns out I just memorized the 30 minutes of each side of the cassette. I really didn't know Morse code at all. So if we fast forward 30 years, I'm out of college, I'm married, I have a family, and I have a little more discretionary income, a little more time, and I decide, hey, I'm going to do a Google search and find out, does ham radio still require Morse code? And hey, it doesn't. I bought a book that day. I was licensed the next week, and I was an extra 3 months later. And I have done all kinds of interesting things with the hobby. We all know there's niches that you can dive into in this hobby. And I told myself I'm going to learn CW someday. I still will. It's just not going to be the hurdle that gets me into it. I tried several times on my own. I bought Gordo CDs, listened to them. I tried several smartphone apps, and I got further along than I did as a kid, but it still just wasn't sticking. And then I learned about the Long Island CW Club. I learned about this. I'd seen it online, but it was at Pacificon last year. They had a booth, so I stopped by and asked them about it. And then it was actually I watched a ham radio crash course YouTube video where Josh was interviewing the founder of the Long Island CW Club, and he really went over how it all works, and it was really interesting. And that's when I decided I was going to take the dive. So the Long Island CW Club, well, it started in Long Island by a guy named Howard. And it started, I think, in 2018. And it just started after Field Day, where him and his friend were going, there's just aren't enough CW operators on Field Day. And if we want more CW operators on Field Day, I guess we're going to have to teach some people CW. And so that's how it all started. And there was no anticipation of it growing outside of the local Long Island area where it was started. But we all know what happened in March of 2020, right? COVID happened, and everybody had to stay home. And so the club decided, we'll continue to teach CW with the few people that are local, and we'll do it over Zoom because, well, that's what everyone's doing. And word got out that, hey, if it's on Zoom, there's no reason why it has to stay local. And so everything with the club is virtual. Everything is on Zoom. So obviously you need a computer with Zoom and a camera and an internet connection. But fast forward 5 years now, 6 years, there are over 6,000 members that belong to the CW, Long Island CW Club. There's members in all 50 states, including 61 countries. And catch that last bullet point there. They have 154 classes per week.
Oh, wow.
Per week. And the classes are non-linear. So what's nice about Long Island CW Club that interested me is that you don't have, when you join, you don't have to wait like, oh, the next session starts in December and goes until February. And then there's another one that starts in April and goes till May. They're non-linear. The classes are going continuously, right? So it's just, I'll cover that in the next slide. So I don't want to get into that. But they call them carousels. There's no start, there's no end. Anybody that joins the club can jump into the very first class that week, and there's no waiting for that new session to begin. This is kind of a busy slide, but if you look at the one on that says beginner's flow, that's the one where most people that don't know CW, that's where they begin. So everyone starts at the top. They take a couple of introduction classes on Zoom about how the Long Island CW Club works, tips and tricks on how to learn, be successful in what you're doing. And then you jump on the carousel. So there's the beginner's carousel 1, which is you learn 3 characters a week. And Monday starts the new one. So every Monday, they're going to start with 3 new characters. And in the carousel 1, we learn these characters right here. So the carousel 1 is 6 weeks long. So if the first week you join, if your first characters that week are P, S, and G, the following week you'll go to LCD and so on, and it'll just loop, right? And then in carousel 2, you learn all the remaining letters plus all the numbers and pro signs. Some of the tips and tricks about how this is taught. They teach at 12 words per minute with an effective rate of about 6 to 8 words per minute. So they give you Farnsworth spacing in between. And if students want to practice at a faster pace, they can. I found that practicing at a faster pace made me not count the dits and dahs, because when you count the dits and dahs, you're going to fall into a trap, and you'll get to a point where you just can't go any faster than your brain can count the dits and dahs. So you have to hear the whole sound rather than count the dits and dahs. And the Long Island CW Club encourages learning with a straight key. And the reason they say that they encourage a straight key is that whole mind to hand to forcing yourself to figure out the rhythm and spacing of the dits and dahs promotes memory in your brain for how the character is shaped. Now, if you want to use a paddle or a bug, you certainly can. They're not going to stop you, but they encourage you to start with the straight key. Here's the characters you learn in Carousel 2. So all those are the remaining letters plus all the 10 digits and some pro signs and punctuation. And then in Carousel 3, they cover the QSO protocol, which is the kind of standard formulaic approach to how a QSO goes, both in informal QSO, and they also cover how QSO protocols work in the abbreviated protocols that are used in POTA and SOTA. And then they encourage you to get on the air. So if you count all those weeks, it's about 3 months from beginning to getting on the air. They want to get you on the air right away. And I have. Now, I haven't done any activations. I haven't activated any SOTA or POTA, but I do have a few CW contacts in my log. Eric's a couple times in there, and so is Craig and a couple of friends from back in Nebraska. So it works. It absolutely does. Oh, the Long Island CW Club offers a tool that's online. This is their practice page. It's completely geared for the way that they teach CW. And it's not very intuitive, but they will cover how to use this tool in the class. And what's interesting about this is the club is all about getting people to learn Morse code. And so this page is not behind a paywall. This is completely available for free. If you go to their website, there's a button at the top that says Morse code practice page. It'll take you right here. And this is the tool that students use. This is what I did all through Carousel 1 and Carousel 2 to learn the basics. And so this is the tool. But they also, I guess my next page, this is their calendar. This is how many, this is next week. If you look, this is November 3rd through the 9th. This is how many classes they have just next week. All the purple pink ones are all the beginners courses. So anything that's beginners carousel 1, 2, or 3 are in purple. And I don't have anything listed here for the intermediate or advanced classes, and all the blue ones are the other activities. So a lot of them are open practice sessions where just members can come together and practice. But then they also have things like basic electronics class every week, a boat anchors forum class, portable operations class. So they do have some activities that are not CW specific because they are just regular camp club. But they also understand that there's more than one way to learn CW. And so they've partnered with a gentleman that has a whole nother page, another website called Morse Code Ninja. And I think CW Academy also recommends this, right? The gentleman behind this, I think his name is Kurt. He just has put together an unbelievable amount of content to help you learn Morse code. And he has created a bunch of content that is specific. It follows the Long Island CW methodology and the order that they teach things. And his content is mostly available on YouTube. And if you go to his website, his links will take you to the YouTube recordings. If you look here, it's hard to see. Like this one is a practice for the letters R, E, A, U, W, B, H, O, and F. And remember how I said I had memorized those 30-minute cassettes 30 years ago? I ain't memorizing this one. This one is 3 hours and 32 minutes long. So even if I get to the end of it, I'm never going to remember what the things were at the beginning. And this is just, it's unbelievable amount of content. But what I found even more easy to use rather than YouTube, right? Because YouTube, you can use this on your laptop or your smart TV or even your phone. What I found even more useful was Morse Code Ninja has podcasts. So when I was in the car, I would just sync this up with my stereo system in my truck. And as I'm driving between Fernley and Reno, I would listen to the Dits and Dots. And I actually have that here. I'll have it right here on my phone. I'll play a little bit of it for you. This is build a word, one letter at a time, 4-letter words at 25 words per minute. I. T-I-M. T-I-M-E. Time. Where's your button? So he's got all sorts of podcasts. There's probably just in the 25 words per minute, there's probably 50 different podcasts that you can listen to. And he's got them broken down from 12 words a minute, 16, 18, 20, 23, 25, 27, 30 words per minute. And I think every single one of them has all the same podcasts. They're just different at different rates. Another tool that the Long Island CW Club promotes, and they have classes with it, is this thing called the Virtual CW Band. It's on this website called hamradio.solutions. And like I said, the Long Island CW Club is all about teaching Morse code and CW. And some people that want to learn that aren't hams yet. Or maybe they don't want to be hams, and maybe they just want to learn CW, and so they don't have a radio. You don't need a license for this. This is just using the web. So if you go to hamradio.solutions, and I'm not going to get into how this works, but they've got different channels that you can, they're almost like rooms you can go into. You can use the keyboard as your keyer, either a straight key or iambic paddles for your keyboard, and you can practice on this website. And they have channels that will decode the dits and das for you so you can see. And then they also have rooms that will not decode. So it's really like on the air practice. And if you don't want to use the keyboard, and I apologize for those that are online, I have a visual aid. You can purchase or build a little interface so you can actually use your real iambic paddles or straight keys to interface your straight key into your laptop or any device. And basically what it does is it turns your straight key or your iambic paddles into a 1 or 2 key keyboard. This is just a human interface device. And so when you're pressing down on your straight key, it's just like pressing a key on the keyboard. That's how the website works. I can take questions now, or do we want to do Craig's presentation and take questions at the end? Okay, yeah, let's go ahead. Go ahead.
How much does it cost?
Oh, cost. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that one.
I can't either.
Okay, don't quote me on this. It's on their website. I think it's $25 for a 1-year membership, $50 for a 2-year membership, $70 for a 3-year membership, or $90 for a lifetime membership. So I just ponied up for the 90. That way I figured if I'm going to do it more than 3 years, that'll pay for itself in a heartbeat. Oh, one of the other things I wanted to mention, the courses, it's very, very laid back. If this week I can make it to the Monday night class, but next Monday night I'm busy and I can't make it to the next Monday night class, and the Wednesday afternoon class works my schedule, that's fine. They don't take attendance. They don't have any exams. It's all very laid back. It's at your own speed. If you feel like you went through Carousel 1 and geez, I don't know if I'm really ready to proceed to Carousel 2, jump onto Carousel 2, try it. And if you feel this is just a little too much, I need to go back, just go back to Carousel 1. It's very, very laid back and at your own pace. Yes.
I'd just like to comment for those who do not know the code. If you know the code, you can always send a message. It may not be by radio, it may be by flashlight, by honking a horn, by tapping on the walls of your prison cell. There's always a way to send a message if you know the code.
That's right. Always a way to send the message if you know the code. It doesn't have to be on the air. Anything more? All right. Craig, you're up.
Yeah, excellent.
Well, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. Let's give him a round of applause. Just before we bring Craig up, the gentleman over there mentioned, I don't know if you could hear him on Zoom and all, but he mentioned it. If you know the code, you can play it different. You can do it different places, you know, light or semaphore or however. Yeah, a lot of people probably, by show of hands, how many people remember the movie Air Force One with Harrison Ford, right? He's in the movie. Thanks, Steve. In the movie, he's the president. The terrorists take it over. What does he do? Well, he remembered Morse code. Of course, it's a movie, but anyway, he goes in the back and he takes some electronic stuff and he's doing Morse code. Now, interesting idea. Okay, we're going to bring up 87i Craig, and give me a second, Craig, to bring up your slide deck and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Not a problem. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Craig, AE7i, and born and raised here in Reno, Nevada. I was a CW operator from the beginning because the Elmer I had was a retired Navy radio op. And so he told me, don't get a mic. You don't need a mic. You just need your straight key, paddle, bug, whatever. And he was the one that would loan me receivers. And that's how I learned Morse code, was just listening on the air. I didn't have any classes other than what he taught me. And got reasonably good at the time. I was able to copy real pure ear produced code, but also bugs with a real prolonged swing film, which if you ever heard, sometimes can throw you for a loop if you know Morse code, but then all of a sudden you get a person with a paddle, with a bug. First of all, before I go on, I just want to know how many of you are CW operators now, or like CW? Okay. How many of you that didn't raise your hands would like to learn CW? Okay, excellent. there was a time where CW operators on the air went way down, and it was kind of dismal there for a while. It was hard to find people to chat with. But with the advent of summits on the air and parks on the air, people have realized that Morse code is very efficient with weak signal communication. And so now we get all these young people on. I'm working people younger than 20. And it's just like that hadn't happened for a long time. So I'm seeing a lot of CW. Oh,
There's the up and down button.
yeah. This is a picture back when I had hair. and a self-portrait taken with a black and white camera. But that's the best I could do with those dorky glasses. My Heathkit Cantina, I had my SB102, the SB200 amplifier. I got a Hot Water 8 down there in the foreground that I built, and then the paddle there on the right, the keyer, my Heathkit. And so that was my setup in the day with an inverted G on a 20-foot pole in the backyard, and did great back in the 70s. So I was described as being representing CW Ops. I don't represent CW Ops. CW Ops is an organization that I went back to. I thought, I want to get back in and get my speed up. So I reached out to them and took their advanced class. And when I get done, they say, oh, now you can be a CW Ops member. And I go, oh, great. And I get an email back and they said, wait a minute, you were already a member, 15 years prior. And here's your old number. And so I'm number 875. And it was a little embarrassing for my advanced class instructor because he had a 4-digit number because he came in later than me. And here's a student of his with a lower number. But it turned out that Carl Young got me involved in it many years ago. And I see Carl's not here today. Okay. So I don't represent CW Ops, but I did take their advanced class, and then I've researched their beginning years. How would I describe it different than Long Island CW Club, which I am also a member of? I think it's a little bit more regimented. Meetings are not when you can make it, but pretty much required to pass the course, each section. And the thought is that it requires continuous practice, and they recommend a minimum of 60 minutes a day working on CW to learn it. And so let me just, which key do I enter?
Yeah, up or down?
Up or down?
Up, arrow down.
The other way. The other way, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a series of courses, and there's 4 courses. It's a structured approach, regular attendance required. And once you go through the entire series, if you want to become a CW Ops member, you can. I get the feeling that this is more grooming people to be high-speed operators for contesting, that sort of thing. That's my gist. But there's a lot of ops that just learn it and love to rag chew. It requires, similar to requirements for Long Island CW Club, you have to have a computer, you have to have a camera with microphone. You need to have a keyer with a side tone, either to be picked up by the microphone, or if you want to get fancy, you can have it go into a little USB box, and you don't have to have a microphone for that. And they require that you dedicate minimum 60 minutes per day. I think with learning anything, it's continuous short burst activity that really puts it into our mind. And they have the 4 courses: beginner, fundamental, intermediate, and advanced. And similar to Long Island CW, you first are just learning characters, learning them as a sound, not dots and dashes or dits and dots. You learn them as sounds. So they tend to use a Farnsworth at a higher speed so that you can't count it. And, instead of dot, dot, dash, dot, the way I learned it, or did, da, did, it's, did it, dot it. So you hear did it, dot it, and your mind goes, oh, yeah. So they space out those letters at first as you're learning, but you're carrying them at a higher speed. That's called farm training. You can all read that slide in terms of, goals, what speed you get to. But each course is 8 weeks long. And unlike Long Island CW Club, where you have a rolling carousel, which I think is a great idea, these are courses that you ask to be involved in. They give you a instructor and you've got classmates. So the nice thing about that is you have the same instructor, same classmates, same co-advisor, and you kind of learn together and become good friends. I'm good friends with people all over the world now as a result of that. I get texts all the time from my friend in Wales. I've got one in Poland, and it's just kind of neat, and one in Germany. You kind of get these friendships because you see each other each week during those 8 weeks. Each one is an 8-week course. You meet twice a week for 1 hour. And then after the class, there's an optional 1 hour where you can break out sessions with co-advisors and just practice some fun things. And then on Sunday, there's a optional hour where you can just show up and they'll also do some fun exercises. The tools that they use for CW Ops, of course, the virtual training in Zoom, same. Morse Runner is a contest simulator. A lot of fun if you're interested in contests to play with. They can simulate everything from fading, noise, QRN, interference, QRM. And they even have a list where you get some joker coming on and starting to send CQ right on your frequency. It's so realistic that you forget that you're not operating on the air. And you can make as many mistakes as you want, it doesn't matter. But after a time, you go, wow, I'm starting to get, quite a few contacts per minute or per hour. They use, I don't know how to pronounce it, Roof ZXP. That's a call sign copy. I always do that when I want to kind of up my ability to recognize a call sign. It starts out at whatever speed you want, and you can have a top speed. So as you're getting these call signs and you type them in, the more correct call signs you copy, the faster and faster it goes. And then you start making mistakes, it slows down. So very good at upping your recognition of call signs. And then they have practice audio files, which they have a short story each week. They've got, each week, they've got these short QSOs where two stations are talking to each other and you're asked to listen to it and repeatedly until you can understand everything they're saying. And then they have a CWT exchange, and CWT is kind of a practice contest. They have them every week on Wednesdays. For those of you that listen to ham bands right around, I think it's forgetting the first one. It's about 6 a.m. local time or 7 a.m. local time, and then noon, and then in the evening. So I think it's 1900, 0300, and I forget the other time. Anyway, that's when all of a sudden you get these high-speed operators on the air, but they have practice files that simulate it. So when I say high speed, some of them are going 35, 40 words per minute. And it's just mind-numbing to try to pick out their call sign. But it's funny, after time, you start hearing that and you start deciphering it. It's pretty interesting how the mind works. Oh, there we go. 1300, 1900, 0300 every Wednesday and then Thursday morning. So those are the tools they're using. Do I recommend CW Ops? I think it's a great way to learn. I think you could do CW Ops and Long Island CW if you want to really accelerate your learning. I think they're complementary, not, separate clubs. If you want to get into high-speed contesting, that sort of thing, I think you can do both. Because there's groups in Long Island CW, but definitely CW Ops is oriented towards that. And being a member of CW Ops, mainly it's for me just you've achieved something. It's kind of a neat honor to be a member of CW Ops. So that's another thing special. And that's about all I can think of. I'm sure there's questions out there. And hey, Kyle, if you want to come up too, if there's questions for either one of us.
Again, how much? Paca mucho.
Oh, okay. Well, to take the courses, it's free. Yeah, you just apply. You know, they've got an online form. You can take the courses for free. To be a member of CW Ops, again, that's once you've been nominated and accepted, then there's a fee, and I think it's an annual fee or a lifetime. I just did the lifetime. I did the lifetime Long Island CW too, because I use them both.
Question.
I forgot to mention in my presentation, you mentioned about practice. Oh, sorry. One through. The Long Island CW Club recommends practicing 20 to 30 minutes a day, but they specifically say break that up. Don't do it all at once. You can go as you can do it as small as 5-minute chunks. And the fact that you learn more when there's more starts and stops than when it's continuous. It just becomes a drag and chore, and you don't learn anything. So break it apart, and that really helped me too.
And the same with CW Ops. I forgot to mention, I'm a retired physician, and for me, my father passed away with Alzheimer's dementia. I'm very sensitive to the mind and what we need to do to exercise our mind. And CW, learning CW, and stretching ourselves is so important. And that's one reason I do it. And, so I think taking care of getting adequate sleep, good nutrition, regular exercise, and then learning new things. So it's worthy of your time and effort. Plus, it's fun. It's just such a beautiful language. Once you learn it, you start accelerating over time. Yes.
Already in CW.
Yeah. The comment was that if you have ADHD, receiving is challenging. And, I would agree. However, I also, I think because it's character based, but to me, it's a language. And so I think it's possible to do it, but I'm not a neurologist, so I don't know how I bet there's members of one or both clubs that have ADHD. I can't imagine there's not some members and how they deal with it.
And Gary Grant gave me the test before he died, obviously.
Yeah.
And he asked me 20 words a minute. The thing is, I want to get back up to it, but I want to get my conversion telegraph noise.
Excellent. Yeah. And I got to mention two Elmers. W7LX, Lima X-ray, use silent sheet. I don't know if anybody knew Mike Anagnosti.
Also?
W7LX, Whiskey 7 Lima X-ray. And he was a member of this club. He got me going back in the early 70s on field day. And just an amazing operator. I would call him up on the phone. I'd hear this high speed, when I'm talking high speed, we're talking 45, 50 words a minute, just screaming speed. And he goes, "Oh, hi, Craig. I'm just finishing up with Fred down in Los Angeles. I told him that you gave me a call, and he's sending while he's talking to me at the same time at this high speed."
Carl does that.
Carl does that. Those are those commercial raindrops.
Keypad on his
Yeah,
wireless keypad.
Yeah. Mike said I used to be sitting on the ship. I'd be eating an apple, reading a book, listening for calls from my station. When they came in, I would just, drop the apple, write it down while I'm still reading the book. I mean, when you learn at a young age, you can do amazing things. The other, I mentioned Ralph Emerson, W7WE, and he was an impeccable, precise operator, beautiful CW. And Yeah, I have to mention him. He passed away about 2 years ago. I think he was in his late 90s, 97. So, and he was operating right up at the time he passed. So he was an amazing guy.
I was just going to add a comment. I can sympathize with the comment about ADHD and not being able to decode between the ears. Allow me to just digress for a moment. I think I had an undiagnosed language learning disability as a child. I did not speak until I was 4, and I had a horrible speech impediment. Nobody could understand a word I said until I was about 8 or 9. And I was learning language, right? Those are the years where you're learning language. And learning CW this past year brought back some trauma. It really did, because it was understanding that, hey, when I hear the sound and then try to translate that to a character and then tell my brain, oh, you need to now write the shape of the letter A because that was an A. By the time all that happens, for me, they're already on to the next 2 or 3 characters. And so I just said, you know what, I'm not going to be able to do writing down. I'm going to have to learn head copy. And I just told myself that. I don't know if that was right or wrong, but that's what I did. And it was very interesting thinking back about kindergarten and first grade. You know, if you think about it, when you're that age, you don't know language, right? You look at the letter B and you have to look at the shape of the letter and go, oh, that's a B. You don't even know what the sound is or how that incorporates into words. You didn't learn the language that you take for granted today in a hurry, right? That was a several-year process. So I'm still, even though I started in May, my journey is still progressing, and I fully anticipate it'll just keep getting better and better. Okay, a couple more questions.
What I know about CW, Morse code, I know what a straight key, I know what a pattern is. Okay, so what do I do with that? I mean, how do I hook it up to my radio? How do I hook it up to my piece? I don't. Is there a source that can move along on this course?
Sure. The question was, I have a paddle, or I know what a paddle is, or a straight key, but how do I technically connect that to my radio and make it work? Is that right?
Or do anything else with it? That's
so. Every radio is a little bit different, right? The best I can say is you're going to have to consult the radio's manual to know exactly how to configure it. Some of them have separate ports for a paddle versus a straight key. Some of them use the same port for both. And then you have to go into the menu to tell whether or not you're using a straight key or a paddle, right? There'll be different settings for how to increase the speed or decrease the speed on an iambic paddle. But
yeah, and I was going to say, CW means constant wave. So you're just cutting and closing contacts. That's so. If your radio has a built-in keyer, which is an electronic device that takes the input from 2 switches, left and right, DITs and DAWs, that's going to convert it into pulsating closure of a relay. So some radios have it built in. Some you have to have an external keyer to work with the paddle. Straight key is one contact, and that can work with old radios. It can work with new radios. So hopefully that. And then there's bugs, which are semi-automatic, mechanical keys. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Follow-up question is, for either one of Long Island or CW,
both will teach you not only the code, but we talk about the radios, how to set up your receiver, how to use preamplifier or not preamplifier on your receiver, how to make it safe for you so you're not blasting your ears and losing your hearing. So you get a lot of didactic training with both classes on nuts and bolts operating. Yes.
I want to say one quick thing. Come up after. Well, just tell us what radio it is.
I have
Yeah, okay.
31A and 7300.
Okay, so most of those, I have a 7300. I can just say off the top of my head, most of those, you plug it in the back, and there's a configuration that says, do you want up and down like a straight key, or do you want a paddle? So you can come to me or many others. Who has a 991A in here? Okay, so he has one, and I have who has 7300. So come and just talk to us, and we can help you. Okay, we'll take one more for Steve, and then we're going to do one other little thing. Thanks, Steve. Come up here so we can hear you. That way we can do it, and then we're going to bring Derek up for a moment. Thank you.
This is just a generalist question. Does every operator end up developing such a style that you can hear their individual identities?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't mention it, but at CW Ops during the training phase, they only allow electronic ears. They want to have you hear perfect code, well sent dits and DAWs, and learn product spacing, and then go to hand keys or bonds. Yeah, so I imagine it's different philosophies on training, but yes, I can say yes, you can. Ralph Emerson would get on the air. I could just hear it, and just the precision of it and the way his language, I knew that was Ralph. Mike Anagnosti, he was a bug operator, had a really cool swing, and I could just hear him, and instantly that's Mike. Yeah, they used that during World War II to follow radio ops because each would have a different fist, they call it. So you could actually say, oh, there's that same fist, but now our direction finding found it here. They were able to follow soldiers around on the battlefield.
Okay, let's give a big round of applause for Craig and Kyle. Thank you for the distinctions there. I'm going to ask Derek to come up and give some applications about SOTA and POTA. And before I do, so the fist, which is kind of the characteristics of the way the code is, it would be like if when you ever been on the repeater and you don't know, you haven't heard the call and you hear the voice because you've heard it a few times and you know who it is. Okay, that's like the fist in CW. You get to know it. Years ago, I ran in a running club, and then I was up in Tahoe, and the guy was running from the Bay Area, and he was running a certain way, right? That was like his gait. That was like the fist. I could tell who it was. Okay, we're going to have, for about 3 minutes, not a lot of time, ask Derek to come up. He has a lot of CW with POTA and SOTA, and we're going to show you a few things here. So if you can be brief, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So some of you know me and know that I do a whole lot of CW with both the SOTA and POTA. I've done 415 activations, SOTA activations, and I've done a whole lot of, I don't want to count, POTA activations, and almost 100% are CWs. So CW is excellent for going a long way. Like with SOTA, you climb up mountains, you're carrying weight. You need to make sure your weight is limited. So almost 100% of SOTA activators use QRP type of radios. A few use like a G90, but those are heavier. You need a bigger battery, which is heavier. So most take very lightweight stuff. When I'm doing POTA, I operate from the car almost 100% of the time. And that's my relaxing and comfortable way of activating. And I take a 891 most of the time. And I also sometimes will take do QRP with a QRP radio. And I operate from there. I'm going to tell you bluntly, as far as style goes, I'm a strong believer in clean code. That's really important because what you're doing is trying to communicate with someone else. And if you're talking to somebody you know and you want to have a style, that's fine. But if you're communicating with somebody who's trying to hear your code through, QRM, QRN, Craig was talking about that application that helps you learn to copy with conditions that are less than perfect. Human beings who make mistakes. I mean, if you ever talk to me on CW, I'm told my code is easy to copy, but I've got arthritis in my hands and I make keying errors, right? So I'll have to correct that. And that's pretty normal. I mean, I'm not alone in that, right? Even people who don't have arthritis make mistakes. So you want to make sure you've got clean code. And so what Craig was talking about, these keyers here with the paddles, that's all I use. It's the only thing I use. And I'm a strong believer in it. I'm not saying people can't do whatever they want. I'm saying learn to send clean code, whatever you use. It's way more important than fast code. And when you're going to talk to somebody down in the mud or far away, use clean code.
Okay, thank you so much. Just want to show you something. So we were talking about Telegram earlier. So on Telegram, on the SNARS page, let's go back to it again. This will be a little easier. On the home page of SNARS, it says Telegram right here. You go to Telegram, you can create Telegram, or you can add. And one of the options that we put on here, with the help of Derek, is a SodaPoda channel. So it's just, again, Telegram is just a chat thing. And it's a way to say, hey, tomorrow I'm going to go out on this hill. Who wants to go? Hey, the weather's really good this afternoon. I want to go down to Washoe Lake. Who wants to come? Hey, can somebody come over and look at my radio and figure out how to get the key working? So it's a great tool for that. Last thing I want to say is that this weekend, today, for those that are into CW, at 2 o'clock local time to 7 tomorrow, because there's a time change tonight, right, for the daylight savings time. There's an ARRL CW sweepstakes. It's a fairly long exchange. There's about 6 pieces of information, but it's a good way to practice. So I'm going to get on. If you happen to go on the bands at between 2 today and 7 tomorrow night in the new time zone, in the CW portion, you'll hear all this CW. So I think the message is, if you want to get into CW, there are these 2 training courses, the one that Kyle mentioned, the Long Island CW, and the one Craig mentioned, the CW Academy. And once you know a little bit of code, you can do cool things. You can do it at home. There's some, guess what? We have the Reno QRP has a slow speed CW. So it's at either 10 or 11 o'clock, depending what time of year it is, and it might be twice a month. We usually get it up on the website or on the noonday. You can
10 o'clock on this Thursday.
Okay, 10 o'clock this Thursday, 7045. So you can have a lot of fun. You see, I don't know if you can find them anymore. Boy Scouts, when I was a kid, had this really cool little oscillator with a little straight key in it. It had the letters. And what's really interesting, I think we have 1 or maybe 2 in our SNARS stuff. But when we do events at Field Day and at the Kids Day and things like that, we bring it out, and the kids look at this and they go, what the heck is this? It's ancient. And what's fascinating is when they learn that stuff, they start saying, I want to get into ham radio. There's just some cool stuff. So congratulations for everybody that's trying, playing, interested, and there's no shame in this. You don't have to do CW. They took the requirement away many years ago. And for me, I dealt with undiagnosed ADD. I found out that doing it faster was better than slower, because slower my mind would wander. And then this last thing, I learned 3 ways. 5 words per minute, which is like da, di, and that's just C, right? And so you can, this is how I did it many years ago, you can hear it, you can convert it in a lookup table, and you can say what it is. But you can't do that at 13. Well, back then to go to general, you needed that. So then you have to hear it and decode it. But then at 20, I couldn't do that. I had to learn words together, So it's a practice. I think Craig and Kyle were talking about this. It's a type of a language. In many ways, it's some of the things that we say on the repeater, 7-3. They just put 7-3, those letters. What is your QTH mean, your location? A lot of those things come from CW. So thanks everybody for being here today. Thanks to all our presenters. Stick around, talk to each other, and this completes the, what are we looking at? Oh yeah, we're going to do that one second. This completes the presentation.
Well, how's your keep the money?
And then Mr. Bill Jones will be doing the in-person raffle. Thank you, everyone.
You didn't want to give it away, so it's mine. Anyway, so we took in $79, and I'm going to say
50/50 is